Hi everyone, welcome to January 8th. Let's do a quick sector review, but before we get started, I just wanted to remind you that these videos are for information purposes only. Please do your own research and due diligence before investing. Okay, so let's do the sector review to start with the weekly. As you can see that we bounced off, or yes, last week we closed just under the 5 week over here. The 5 week was 468.91, and we closed just about that at that level, 467.92. And this week, to start off on Monday, we are kind of hitting against it. The 5 week is at 471.50, and we are currently at 471.30. So very close to the 5 week. Although we are approaching from underneath the 5 week, so there are chances that the 5 week will act as resistance. But a close above the 5 week at 471.50 would you should start leaning a bit bullish. And I would say start leaning because we are looking at weekly charts, so a weekly close is needed to confirm. So a weekly close would be on Friday. If we close above the 5 week, which is at 471.50, that would be a confirmation, because otherwise we could have a run up today and then a sell off back down to the 5 week. That is also possible this week. So for a full confirmation, you should wait until Friday. But today we are contesting with that 5 week approaching from below. So something to watch out for as we are currently in the lunch hour from 9 to 10 a.m. PST or 12 to 1 Eastern Standard Time. So when the volume returns in trading, it would be interesting to see if this holds up the 5 week as resistance, or it gets blown through by the bulls here. So a key point here, equally weighted, we haven't looked at much, but here we are in a kind of a similar boat. But last week, you can see the 5 week was maintained, but this week we are hitting again the 5 week from below, and it did touch that 5 week today and sold off from there. 5 week for RSP, equally weighted S&P, is sitting at 156.52, and we're currently at 156.30. So just about there on the RSP as well. QQQ, we are above this kind of breakout level that we had, the breakout trend line that we had drawn in 2023. We are still above it, but two things that are interesting here is that we are below the 5 week. The 5 week is not until 404, so we have resistance up at around the 404 mark, and we have the AVWAP level. And if we move to the daily chart, you can see we are very closely contesting with that anchored VWAP level. Why did I draw this red box here? If we're gonna have to move down to the hourly chart here, and we can see that we are trying to break out a much better view here, trying to break out from that AVWAP, but it is low volume hour right now, lunch hour. So when volume returns, it'd be interesting to see if this supports or that breakout from this AVWAP. And you can see that from December 28th, end of year, all of last week, we sold off every time we hit this level. So this is the first time we're retesting it, and it's an interesting point. The red box here designates the previous area where buyers and sellers have met and fought. We had no problem breezing through that today, but it would act as an area of support if price decides to fall back around the 400 mark. Now that we're above and we've spent some time above that 400 mark, coming back down to that 400 would start acting as support, which is why this red box is drawn here. So overall, similar to S&P, an interesting point for the QQQ. If it does take out that AVWAP, the next resistance is 404.53, which it could rally to. It could even happen today by the end of the day. And if we do get a weekly close above that 404.29, 5-week moving average, then we are looking at back to a bullish scenario where we could start rising up to the trend line around the 415. Okay, I'm going to move into the XLK, the tech sector. Over here, we can see this red box that we had where previous buyers and sellers have fought. That did act as support, and we did have a gap up this week to start the week, and we're kind of moving up here. Could move up to the 5-week moving average here, and if we were to draw kind of the AVWAP here, we can see that on the XLK side, it's very similar to QQQ, but seems like we have broken. So, but this break happened at 8:30, just before the lunch hour. It will be very interesting to see what happens at lunch and what type of close we get today. So a critical point in the markets here, starting to start the second week of January. XLP, let's move back to the weekly chart. Last week sold off, gave this wick into this huge sell zone that we have. This all could act as a resistance here for us. You can see how many transactions have taken place in this area and sold off each time. So nothing to do here until we get past this point. You could play in this zone, but I don't like doing that because of all this resistance here that could come in to play any time the markets decide to turn. You could have a good trade from 72 to about 76, but with all this resistance here, I don't want to get caught in more of these wicks, which is why XLP is not one of the favorite sectors that I'm looking at. Now this is super interesting, and this goes SMH semiconductors and similar type of move up with the rest of the market. But what's really interesting is we got a decisive kind of breakdown from the 5-week last week, but today we've recovered a lot of it, and we're retesting the 5-week, but again from the bottom. So 5-week would be acting as resistance here. That is sitting at 171.71. The most interesting stock in this sector is NVIDIA, which has been for the whole of last year. We can see that NVIDIA is in this channel over here, or this top trend line. You can see it still has a lot of room to run. If it wants to run, it can run all the way up to 665. If we were to consider this as the line of resistance here. So NVIDIA, something to keenly watch on, and if this decides to run up, this would probably have SMH break through the 5-week over here. That would be a confirmation for NVIDIA, for a further run in NVIDIA. So interesting day and interesting development to the markets starting the second week of January. IWM, small caps, we are still much further away. So there is some weakness, relative weakness here. We are much further away from the 5-week here, where the QQQ, XLK, SMH are all very close to testing the 5-week and the AVWAP levels from the sell-off. But here we are much further in the IWM and in the mid caps here. So some relative weakness in these two sectors here in the market. XBI was an important and interesting sector for us last week. We looked at it, but both weeks have so far sold off. This week would be interesting to see how this holds up. If we get a closure into this wick, into these wicks here, then we can start getting maybe ready for a cheat entry or ready for a possible breakout in XBI, but definitely a sector to watch. I'm going to mark that. IYT. IYT is similar to IWM and MDY, where there is a rebound, but a weak rebound here in these sectors. Transports, right? So transports have a weak rebound, still much further away. Resistance is quite far away in IYT. Industrials, also a weak a weak run up today, with the rest of the market up a lot more. Industrials are actually still down a bit from last week, so we had a gap down and run up into the gap. So XLI looking a little weak compared to the rest of the market. XLU was at an interesting point last week, and it seems to have gotten out of this kind of resistance zone. We do still have a lot of transactions that have taken place, so it's not a clean road ahead for XLU, but it's not looking too bad. If let's take a look at how it looks on volume at price, we can see we have a 50 moving average here, 50 week moving average, and the 200 week moving average that we could possibly run into some resistance with. But overall, we have a move up from the lows, and we are, especially like I would say for XLU, where I would put an alert is somewhere around this mark. Once we're through this 200 week moving average, then it is a much cleaner road ahead for XLU to run up. But if we look at the daily chart, we can see on the daily time frame we are above the 200-day moving average. I would say this is, yes, 200-day. We are trying to close above that. It's starting to act as resistance with, I believe, the 5-day kind of supporting it underneath. So we could get a run up here to the 66.79 level. And let's see how that corresponds. 66.79 would also be would lead us out of this kind of messy weekly chart here. So you can see how this is not as clean of a chart, but that just means that it is the start. It could be the start of a recovery in the utility sector. So something to keenly watch. And if you're going to position in it, then position your or size your position according to the fact that we do have all these resistances coming up in XLU. It's not going to be a clean breakout, and it's not going to be an easy breakout as some of the other sectors we've seen. XLV is a much nicer, much cleaner breakout. You can see that we are trying to move up above this resistance here. We have the 5-week further below at the 136.76, so we could see kind of a pullback into this 136.50 level for a recheck of this 5-week, and then a breakout confirmation from there. But doesn't have to. A breakout can confirm or can continue and consolidate at a later point for the moving averages to catch up. But an interesting, I've liked XLV to start the year, and I still like how it's positioning itself this year. XME was a little bit disappointing, where we did again have a gap down, I believe similar to XLI that we just saw, and we are retesting the closure of last week, but we are far away from this 5-week moving average. If you see, like, in terms of numbers, not too far away. 58.80 is the 5-week, and currently at 58. But relative to the rest of the market, which is already at the 5-week, we are looking a little bit weaker on the XME. XLF has this overhead resistance to encounter here at the 38 to 40 level. So something to see on how it responds to this resistance. It might kind of go in here and be sold off, and then take some time to consolidate, and then further find an opportunity to run up and break out. But XLF is something to just kind of hold your breath on, keep watching it to see how it responds over here, but not a point of entry in my opinion. ITB, very interesting. So we did kind of find buyers in this area here, which happens to be a gap area. So this was Friday. So Friday we almost tested the whole gap and then moved up from here. And today we have a further move up, and you can see that the 5-day and this, I believe, is the 20-day, supporting today's move. But we are selling off from the highs of the day, but we do have some support of the moving averages below to support this move. So not a bad move here, constructive move in ITB, in the home builder sector. But like the rest of the market, it has to contest with the 5-week moving average, which it almost tested around the 150 mark, 100.5 mark earlier today, and it found some sellers there. But we might have a retest or test again of that when the volume returns today. XLY, much farther away from the 5-week. So this is consumer discretionary. So you know, one of the sectors, it just shows you that one of the sectors that on the rebound, it's not as high of a demand by the buyers. So this could lead to some, shows some weakness in the sector. So I'm going to actually mark these as green, the sectors that we like, and the sectors that we think are weaker. This was XLI was the other one. These two sectors, XLK. Yeah, XLK, XLI, and XLY, they have to prove themselves. But so far, XLV and XBI are the two sectors that are standing out. IWC, microcaps. This is not something we covered last week, but I'm going to start to cover the microcaps as well. We used to do small caps only, but so microcap stocks, you can see here, we're on the weekly. So this is the 200-week moving average, which is above the rest of the moving averages. So which means that this has been just curled up in consolidation for a while. Not as great of a setup here in IWC. And we can take a look here on the weekly and see that maybe an alert at this mark here at the top of yearly to keep an eye on IWC would be the right thing to do, but not a point of entry for IWC. And finally, XLE, the energy sector. We had this sort of channel it was moving in last year, but we retested the bottom of the channel in September, but never recovered from that, and we are kind of consolidating here. So looks a bit much weaker, XLE, until it can start to take. You can see how the moving averages are not properly aligned. We have all the moving averages kind of mixed up, which shows a mix of consolidation and sideways action, that it's not trending in any direction. So XLE is something to just kind of hold off on. Nothing interesting going on here in the energy sector as of yet. All right, so that was the sector review. I also selected some stocks to go through. So if you only want to listen to the sector review, that's the end of the video for the sector. But I do also want to cover some stocks that I found interesting over the weekend review. So LEN has been a very strong contender for the rebound all the way since November, and it is kind of consolidating right now. It's not my favorite type of entry, and if I were to enter this, I would position accordingly. But we can see that we are quite far away from the top of yearly, but you can see how this 5-week has been nicely supporting it, and this is what we're contesting today. So we got to see how the buyers and sellers kind of respond to the 5-week here. Do we see buyers using it as support and pushing this further up, and a closure into this wick area would be a confirmation of that, or we see the sellers coming in and using this as resistance to sell the stock further. But a clean and interesting breakout here that had happened, and we are seeing some consolidation. So something to keep an eye on for LEN. MOD, similar type of move in MOD. We have the 5-week underneath, so being supported, the stock being supported by it. So a breakout above this level here would confirm some action in LEN, in MOD, and similarly in LEN. I'll put a alert at the 149.95 or 150 mark to keep an eye on a further breakout in LEN. Visa I found interesting. It's gone through a bunch of consolidation here. The moving averages look good and ripe for support. We have the 5-week and the 20-week supporting underneath. So a move up above here from the 263 level could confirm a further breakout in Visa. RDNT had a great move today, up 4%. Let's check out this stock, RDNT. So you can see the yearly value supporting it here, and then a move up today and a reconfirmation of the 5-week or retake of the 5-week, confirming a possible further breakout in RDNT. So this setup looks pretty good to me. In RDNT, I'm going to mark that. ADMA up 6% today. Moving into this VPOC around the 5 mark, 4.9 mark. They basically wrote there was a gap up today and a consolidation into that move. So not my favorite entry as the risk reward here. I can only place my stop all the way down about the 4.3 range. It's already in the 4.7 with a target of 4.9. So it's about a 50-50 entry if that works for you. But I like to look for trades that are 2-to-1. ARDX. So these are all biotech stocks. You can see this is up. Wow. Up 30% today. ARDX. This is definitely a clean breakout. Something I definitely missed. When I had it on my watch list, but definitely missed this one, ARDX. Yeah, I don't know anything else to say other than that is a clean breakout. We have a VPOC here at the 695 mark. So a closure above that would be bullish, could lead to a further break into this 18 and 21 zone. But I would wait for some consolidation here and see how the sellers and buyers react to this move. But we can see the 5-week cleanly supporting it and a great move, plus 30% in ARDX today. BSX, Boston Scientific, getting pretty curled up here with the 5-week approaching underneath it. So not a bad entry. You could have your stop somewhere around the 56.50 mark, or if you want to play a little bit with a larger stop, you can put your stop at the 54 mark and ride this up. The first level of resistance 63. And other than that, if we look at the weekly as well, it's a much cleaner. There's no resistances in the back of the chart here, so it could start trending further. Your 5-week is approaching underneath and supporting this move, and as we saw here, you could put a stop with the yearly value around the 55 mark, and kind of ride this up with the 5-week here. VSX, interesting. ACAD, pharmaceuticals. What is this one doing? It is underneath the 5-week here, contesting with the 5-week. So something to watch here, how it responds to being under the 5-week. So I'll just keep it on the watch list for now, but no action on this. CTAS also underneath the 5-week. Let's see how it is on the weekly chart. Pretty far away from the yearly value and approaching the 5-week from below. So retake of the 5-week will start getting me interested in these stocks. ANET. Supported by the 5-week here, a move up. This looks like a trend continuation. We had a check back of the 5-week here and a trend continuation in ANET. So Arista Networks doing fine. SMCI up almost 10% today. Also a nice curled up kind of consolidation here. And you can see all the wicks here in this area. If we get a weekly closure into this wicked area, then this could confirm a further move up in SMCI, but we do have this yearly value sitting at 317. So this could start acting as resistance. So it might need some more time to contest the resistance, the seller sitting here, and then further move up in SMCI. So just something to keep a watch on. LRCX approaching the 5-week from the bottom. CDNS, Cadence Designs, again 5-week resistance at the bottom, so not of great interest yet. PLab also had a big breakout in December, further consolidation, but today we have we might have a closure below the 5-week. We would have to wait till the rest of the week to see how this develops. Groupon was an interesting chart. If we look over here, you can see we had a support from the yearly value and these moving averages moving up underneath it. And today we are starting the week higher, confirming that support here. So this is interesting to me. We could move up at least to the 200-day. The only thing I don't like about Groupon is this 200-day and all these moving averages kind of trending down, facing downwards. So with this being up here, but it is a good 7 points away. So you could play it at least up till the 20 something with a stop at 12. So an interesting stock here, Groupon. I don't mind it. The one thing that like I said, don't like about it is the moving averages, 200-day being above the rest of the moving averages, which means that a trend is not mature. The trend has just started. So this could correct itself, but you can, if you're in for a short term up until the moving average, 200-day moving average, 200-week moving average at 20, then this would be a decent trade. Because look at your risk reward. Your reward is about $8 and $7, and your risk is about $1 or $2, right? So that's a good risk reward here in Groupon. So I'm gonna highlight that one. CRSP, CRISP. We are consolidating here and lots of wicking here going on in CRSP. But regardless, it's an interesting kind of stock to keep an eye on, because if we do have a break here of the top of value, then that could support a move higher in CRSP. But so far, nothing to do here. ZIM, shipping services. This is looking fine to me. Continuation of trend. We can see we took the 200-week moving average, right? Or 50-week actually is on top. Again, this moving average is jumbled up, means this has been not trending yet, and the moving average will take some time to kind of fix themselves and in order for the trend to mature. We can see might be a start of a trend here in ZIM from off the lows at 6. It is already more than doubled, but it seems ripe for some more movement. If we look at the daily chart, we are above the monthly value here and could have a good 5-point move here in ZIM. And finally, KGS looks fine to me, a little stretched from the 5 weeks. So an entry, we're gonna have to wait for some consolidation for a much cleaner entry here. And QS was a big mover, plus 50% or something, but it closed down to end the week. But I mean, QS has a history of being late to the party. So when the rest of the stocks have rallied, then QS starts to rally. But what I would keep a watch on is if this is a one-day rally in QS or there is further move up. As we can see in QuantumScape, there was some news about the tests of its solid-state battery going better than expected, but we do have a VPOC at 1050 that it could run up to. But we do have the yearly value area contesting at the 901 mark that it needs to get through first in order to make that clean breakout. Okay, hope that was helpful. A little bit longer today on the video because we did single stocks and we added a few sectors. But I really hope that that was helpful for you guys. Thank you.